day. My name is Tim Thurman. I'm the tennis pro here at the Hilton. Today we're going to talk about squeezing the bottom three fingers on your racket hand as you're hitting the tennis ball. Okay, now what's the advantage of squeezing these bottom three fingers? Well, there's three main things that it'll do for you. First of all, it's going to allow you to have a firm but flexible wrist, okay? If we squeeze the bottom three fingers, we're still able to provide a firm backing and a nice firm wrist, but we're still able to bend our wrist. What we don't want to do is we don't want to squeeze the whole hand. If we squeeze all five fingers, then we're going to have a locked wrist, and then it's not going to be very flexible. Okay, so what we want to do is squeeze the bottom three, which allows you to have a nice firm wrist, which we want, okay, but still not have a locked wrist. It'll be a little bit flexible. So that's the first thing, is it's going to provide you a firm but flexible wrist. The second thing is, it's going to keep the racket from turning in your hand, okay? You'll see beginners a lot of time, they're kind of scared, they're kind of timid, okay? And they're not holding the racket very tight, and often the racket is turning in their hand, okay? So what we want to do is squeeze the bottom three fingers, and then the racket's not going to, it's going to be really stable, it's not going to turn in our hand at all. Okay, even if the ball hits off center, we still should be able to hang on to it as long as we're squeezing these bottom three fingers. Okay, now the third thing it's going to do for you, squeezing the bottom three fingers, is it's going to provide you a little bit more power and depth on your shots, okay? So, for example, the racket itself has a lot of power in it, okay? If I just drop the ball here, the ball really takes off, okay? So if we're squeezing the racket's got a lot of power in it. If we provide a firm backing for it, the ball really should take off the racket once we hit it. Okay, so those are the three things that squeezing the bottom three fingers is going to do for you. It's going to provide a firm but flexible wrist. It's going to keep the racket from turning in your hand, and it's going to give you a little bit more pace and depth. Okay. Now there are a couple shots where we don't want to squeeze really tight with our hand. Okay. If we're hitting a drop shot, for example, we don't want the ball to go very far, so we're going to want to relax our hands. But most importantly, we don't want to squeeze our hands when we're hitting an overhead or serve, okay? On the overhead and serve, we want a very flexible wrist, okay? So if we're squeezing these fingers, it's not going to be as flexible, and we're not going to be able to snap the wrist as much. So on the serve and overhead, you're going to want to really relax these bottom three fingers, okay? But in general, on the volley, forehand or backhand, squeeze these bottom three fingers, and it's really going to start to help out your game, okay? Thanks for tuning in. Tune in again for more tennis tips.